They laughed and said, "She's just the assistant, let her pour coffee." So I pulled out the ownership papers and fired every single one of them. I wasn't supposed to speak. I wasn't even supposed to be in the room when the board was making decisions. But they forgot one thing: I was the silent co-founder, and everything they built stood on my work. They used my brains, my late nights, my tech designs, and called me just an assistant? Oh, they had no idea what was coming. Before we go further, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you're tired of fake people getting exposed. Now, let's get into how it all started. They used to love calling me sweet little Aria, the helper, the note-taker, the girl who brought coffee and quietly stayed in the shadows. No one cared that I was the first one in the office and the last one to leave. That I coded the original product that put this company on the map. No, to them, I was replaceable, especially Marcus, the CEO. He took all the credit, strutted into interviews like he invented everything, while I watched silently from the hallway. One time, he actually told a new investor I was just his niece. Learning the ropes. I smiled. Said nothing. But in my mind, I started preparing. Every email, every file, every deal, I saved it. Every lie, every time they excluded me from meetings, every time they changed my title from co-founder to executive assistant. I kept receipts. The real betrayal? They locked me out of the equity round. Said I didn't qualify as key staff. That was the moment I realized they never saw me as part of the empire I helped build. That night, I called a lawyer. And I bought shares, quietly, from employees who were quitting. One by one. By the time the big board meeting came, I wasn't holding coffee. I was holding power. And when Marcus tried to humiliate me in front of the panel with, "Do you have the coffee report, Aria?" I slid my folder across the table. Not with a report. With legal documents. Ownership papers. Control votes. And one final note, effective immediately: "You're all fired." And just when they thought it couldn't get worse, the room froze. Marcus's smug face collapsed in real time. He blinked, then laughed like it was a joke. "You're firing us? Aria, this is adorable." "Sweetheart, you don't even, I own 52% of the company now," I said, calmly. "You really should have paid attention to the shareholder reports instead of just signing them." Panic started spreading across the table. Board members whispered, flipping through the documents I handed out. One of them, Karen, the CFO who once told me I had a secretary's brain, turned pale when she saw her signature on the stock transfer. "You bought everyone out?" She stammered. "No," I smiled, "they came to me. You know, those underpaid engineers, the interns you mocked, the talent you let go to cut costs? They trusted me. So I offered them something better in return. Ownership." I could hear chairs creak as the board members shifted nervously. The silence was loud. That's when Jason, the most arrogant of them all, slammed the table. "This is insane. You were just the assistant. You don't know how to run a company." That's when I played my next card. "Actually," I said, pulling up a screen, "here's the software update I launched last month. The one that brought in $3 million in client renewals." They all stared as I hit play on the metrics dashboard. The graph shot up like a rocket. Marcus's jaw clenched. He knew. He finally realized, I built this product. I ran this company behind the scenes. And while you were busy throwing office parties and taking fake credit on LinkedIn, I built an empire. Marcus reached for his phone. Probably to call the lawyers. But my next line stopped him cold. "By the way, your company email has already been deactivated." He shot up from his chair. "You can't do this." I stood. Calm. Powerful. "It's done. You're no longer on the board. Security is waiting downstairs." And just as he stormed out, red-faced and furious, one last twist, the live stream notification popped up. Yes, the entire board meeting was being broadcast to all employees and major investors. Every insult, every lie, every ounce of disrespect, recorded. The comments were already flooding in. "Finally, Aria gets justice. Best board meeting ever. She played the long game like a boss." But this was just the beginning, because what they didn't know was, I walked out of that boardroom with my head held high, but not before glancing back one last time. Their faces? Shocked. Humiliated. Powerless. It felt poetic. The same people who used to call me invisible were now scrambling to keep their reputations from burning down. As I stepped into the elevator, my phone buzzed nonstop. Investors, journalists, employees I hadn't spoken to in months. One message stood out. It was from an old intern named Leo. He wrote, "You just inspired every silent struggler out there. We always knew you were the real mind behind it all." That message hit deep. Because they all thought I just got lucky. They didn't know how many nights I cried in that tiny one-bedroom apartment, eating cheap takeout while writing code till sunrise. They didn't know I once pawned my laptop just to pay for a server upgrade when our product was crashing. No one saw the sleepless nights, the panic attacks, the rejection emails. All they saw was the title assistant and assumed I was beneath them. Let me tell you what they really missed. 3 years ago, Marcus rejected a funding pitch I prepared, told me it was too complex for someone at your level. So I took that exact pitch, made a few tweaks, and quietly launched it under my own name on a startup platform. Within 6 months, it won a $500,000 innovation grant. Guess what I did with that money? I bought equity. I built my own development team. And I started shadow funding the very company that laughed at me. Every upgrade they bragged about? Secretly powered by my silent investments. And they never even noticed, but the sweetest moment came a week after the takeover. A big corporate merger was on the table. The same deal Marcus was begging for months ago. The new CEO of the partnering company wanted a meeting. I walked into the glass conference room, and he stood up, he smiled, and said, "So you're the genius behind it all. We've been waiting to meet the real boss." I shook his hand, calm as ever, but just as we were about to sign, my assistant walked in holding a sealed envelope. "It's from Marcus," she said. "He's requesting a meeting. Said it's urgent." I opened it. A handwritten letter. "Aria, I know we got off on the wrong foot. I didn't realize your value back then. If there's any chance we can work together again, I'd be open to a conversation." I chuckled, folded the letter, and dropped it in the trash, but this story wasn't just about revenge. It was about redemption, for every underdog who got ignored, used, and underestimated, because what happened next shocked everyone. 3 days after tossing Marcus's letter in the trash, something unexpected happened. His wife called me. "Aria," she said, voice trembling, "he's losing everything. Investors pulled out. He's being investigated for misreporting company finances. I don't know what to do. He keeps saying you were the only one who could save him." Save him? The man who once told me I was lucky to even have a desk? The man who spent years taking credit for my ideas while calling me forgettable? I stayed silent for a few seconds. Then I said, "He built his empire on lies. Let him learn what it feels like when the truth walks in." And I hung up. The very next day, headlines flooded the tech world. Boardroom queen, how the assistant took over a multi-million-dollar tech company, from underestimated to unstoppable. Aria's silent climb to the top. Ex-CEO Marcus Carter investigated for corporate fraud after losing company control. I didn't have to say a word. Karma was already screaming. Meanwhile, inside the company, things were transforming. Employees who were once ignored were now being promoted. I introduced profit sharing, started a mentorship program for women in tech, and brought back every talented developer Marcus had fired. But the biggest shock came at our annual shareholder summit. Hundreds of people filled the hall. Investors, employees, press, all waiting to hear from the new boss. I stepped on stage, took the mic, and said, "I was called an assistant. Today, I'm announcing our expansion into 3 new countries, a partnership with a Fortune 500 company, and our highest profit margin in company history." The room exploded with applause. People stood, cheered. Some cried, but I wasn't done yet. I clicked the next slide. Marcus's name appeared, along with a bold headline, "Permanently banned from company premises, lifetime clause activated." The crowd went silent. Then laughter. Cheers. Some even whistled. I had turned my pain into power, but the final twist? That came when I walked off stage and was approached by a man in a crisp gray suit. "I'm from Forbes," he said. "We'd like to put you on the cover." The same magazine Marcus once lied to, claiming he was the visionary behind Aria Tech. I smiled. Let's call it the real story. And just when I thought it was all over, another letter arrived, not from Marcus, but from his daughter. She wrote, "I saw everything online. My dad used to say women like you didn't belong in tech. But now I want to be just like you. Thank you for showing me it's possible. I sat there, holding the letter, and for the first time in years, I cried, not from pain, but from purpose, because in the end, this story wasn't about revenge. It was about becoming unforgettable, in a world that tried so hard to forget me.